my name is Dawn Gibson. Welcome to the Confident Parenting Connection. And today I have a special guest, Lynne Newman, here to talk with us about what really defines true strength in a woman. And she's going to share her personal story once I introduce her. And we're going to talk a lot about, you know, this idea that women have to do it all and be alone and not ask for support, and what shifted in her life and also what shifted in my life to bring us to a place of being able to receive the support that we deserve and that we really truly desire at the core. So welcome, Lynne. Thank you for being here. Lynne Newman is the mom of 2 soulful girls and the wife to a 5-year cancer warrior. She's an inspiring speaker, author, and resilience coach. And she loves to support women who are feeling overwhelmed by significant life challenges and make small yet profound changes so they can enjoy life no matter what the situation. She's a registered occupational therapist and certified simplicity parenting coach. And you can find her at www.lynne, it's L-Y-N-N-E, Newman.com. Welcome, Lynne. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you sharing your story, which is what I'm going to ask you to share now. What brought you to this place of feeling like, you know, enough is enough? We need to redefine what a strong woman really is and really means. What brought you here to this point?
Well, first of all, what brought me to this point is an accumulation of events that happened. I feel like we're all strong within, and we, but in life, some of us get thrown off more than others, or, it's our own journey. And I just kept getting thrown off, but still finding that resilience within kind of brought me to like a deeper sort of, I was strong, but then it just kept layering. It brought me to like even a deeper strength, an inner strength that I never knew possible. So it kind of,
So what brought you to this place of feeling like it's important for us to redefine what a strong woman is or what strength in a woman is? What is your story around that? You can kind of say like I had an accumulation of stresses and things that happened. And then I was like broken open almost like, I had infertility issues, polycystic ovarian syndrome, and then was still kind of like reaching out for help, but I was managing, and then I lost 2 pregnancies. So then it's like, okay. And then then I changed my lifestyle, changed everything, got pregnant. And then once I was 3 months pregnant, my husband was diagnosed with cancer. So then, it's like that whole uncertainty and dealing with, surgeries and appointments and a growing belly and, managing and, reaching out for support, but it's just kind of like I wasn't finding the right support. And we were still coping, but like I found with juggling cancer and a newborn baby, like it was really difficult in terms of, I felt like that internal, like having to choose between going to an oncology, to the chemo daycare with my husband or, having to be with my newborn. Like it was just like really icky situations to be in. Yeah. It doesn't seem like a fair choice at all. I mean, really.
Yeah. And so I don't know. I just, we had to prioritize like what we were doing and money, all that kind of stuff. So bottled it in, kind of reached out for support, but not much, kept it in. Then, went back to, I lost my job. I was wrongfully dismissed. The one thing that I wanted, was to go back to a familiar job. And then I lost, as an occupational therapist in a private clinic, they kind of like screwed me over. In hindsight though, it's all like divine storm-ish, you know what I mean? Like I didn't want to go back. I was working with people with brain injuries. I wanted to work in pediatrics with kids. And sure enough, I didn't have a job to go back to. I ended up being pregnant easily. I was pregnant, lost my job, and then my husband was going back to work. So, okay, nauseous, try and find more work. That everything's okay. Then I had the second baby. Sorry, I'm rambling now.
You're not rambling. You have a lot of story to tell. You're not rambling at all. I mean, this is
So, and like we still hadn't really coped with the fact that we had dealt with like 18 months of like cancer and motherhood. New adjusting to.
Yeah.
parents. And I remember writing an email to one of my friends that I had met like in a hypnobirthing class. Mm-hmm. And I said, I have to email you. Like Mark and I are like struggling. I don't know if it's cancer related or if it's parent related. Like, how are you guys doing? And she's like, oh my God, my husband and I want to like divorce each other. Cause like our babies were like newborn and like, but it felt so real. And I was glad that I was able to reach out.
Yeah.
With just that kind of support when people can be real about their life and what's going on, not negative, but just real. Mm-hmm. It helped because she's like, no, we're not dealing with cancer and we're still like struggling and it's an adjustment. So I was like, okay. So then had the second baby and things were good. But a couple months in, I found out like I wasn't going to get like mat leave, like an employment insurance so it just kind of tipped me over the edge in terms of like that financial stress. And then I went into like a postpartum depression. And I also had a dream. It was like I was at the midwife's office and there was like a glass window and my husband was receiving a call that his cancer had come back. It was that summer. And then sure enough in September, we almost got like, it was like life just was not good. Like he was back in a job he didn't like. We were all this undealt emotions, postpartum depression, 2 little kids. Like we were like, kind of feel like we were drowning. Yeah. We almost got like, we were driving in a car coming back from a cottage that was donated to us to go. A truck almost like was rolling towards us and then miraculously went into the ditch. And it was like, kind of like a wake up call, like, wake up guys, you can take charge of your life. You can change this. My energy was completely disconnected. I remember going for Reiki and she's like, wow. And then the following week I went in for emergency appendicitis, and that was a break going in the hospital. Anyway, then on my birthday, like a couple days later, Mark found out that his cancer had come back. It's stage 4 melanoma. There's now a big a tumor in his pancreas. And I went for Reiki and she's like, your energy is flowing again. And it's because I was like, oh, okay, now this is the catalyst for change. Like, it's weird that it took that to be like, it's like permission to, I don't know, to like live the life you want. Because like when you're faced with, I don't know if that sounds funny, but anyway, it just kind of like catapulted us into like, okay, like, I mean, it's still not easy. It's, but.
How long ago was that? How long ago was
2.5 years. So now we're still in the thick of it. It's been 2.5 years of like, baby turns 1, try and go back to work, burnout, can't do this doesn't resonate anymore, life's too short, okay, I'm going to start a business and actually do the work, like serve the people that I want in the way that I want, because there's like a disconnect with like, I'm genuine and real and like, wanted to do it my way. So, and asking for support and like, I found it was really helpful. Like after the cancer came back, I knew that the financial stresses, because, being on mat leave, I didn't get a mat leave, no money coming in, and then dropping down to 70% of his income. So we're like on less than 1 income. And in Toronto, we have high mortgages and care costs and stuff, living costs. And it's like, and his alternative, there's nothing conventionally for him, and alternative therapies are expensive. We spent like thousands of dollars over months to keep him alive. And so I had to reach out for support, and our friends were like, it helps us to help you, and if this is the way we can help you. So within I put out like a GoFundMe site, and then my parents and Mark's family and his coworkers, like within like a really short amount of time, we raised a significant amount of money, which then just really helped us feel like uplifted and like we weren't going to drown, just to know that. Yeah, so it's a whole different level of like support, but it's just nice to reach out, right? Like, and it felt uncomfortable, but it's also brave and wise too, I think, because it's like, if we end up like $200,000 in debt, and how are we going to pay for this? The stress will hurt us a lot. Yeah.
I mean, everything you just said, it was so powerful. I mean, you had so many different experiences, and then it sounds like you had this one pivotal moment where you're like, okay, this enough is enough. Let's do this. And I've heard that from other people too. And, just about feeling like something traumatic or something big happened, like you were saying, that broke them open, where they're finally like, okay, this is ridiculous. Like, I just need to live the life that I am ready to live. And, part of me is really curious about that, because it's, because you were saying, it might sound silly that you were given permission, but it really doesn't sound silly, because I hear it from so many different people. And I actually had a moment within the last month where I was watching this really powerful and very sad story of this woman. And I won't go into the details of the story because it was really super depressing, but it was her wake up call, and she said, I don't want to be a lawyer. I want to open this home for girls and teach them skills who are pregnant and all these different things. And then I saw a post on Facebook that was like a similar thing. And then I had this moment of, what am I waiting for? Am I waiting for something traumatic to happen to me? Am I waiting for something traumatic to happen to my family? What is, I don't want that. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, but at the same time, it's almost human nature on some level, because sometimes we need those things to bang us upside the head to say, oh, whoa, okay, life really, we have this life. That's what we have. And, even if you believe in reincarnation and those things, like right now in this physical body, I have this life to live. You have this life to live in your physical body. Right.
Yeah.
And so what do you make of that?
Well, I totally, I think I hear, it's, we're totally, where it's safe, it's comfortable. So, and it's not to say that we enjoyed our life. Like, it's not like I was working with kids as an OT. I love my profession. It's very holistic, and I have a lot of flexibility. I was working in the community, in schools and in homes and like, I love what I do. But I don't know, I think on a bigger level, it has to do with, that's just my soul contract. Those are the agreements that my husband and I came together and we're meant to, I don't know, like,
tell me more.
And it's just our journey, right? Like, and it's not to beat ourselves up, like, it's just the path and just the journey. And
so it sounds like what you've been able to do, though, even with all of these hard challenges and these different issues that, would send some people spiraling and not being able to get back up, you have found a way to adjust. And it sounds like part of that adjustment has included pulling in the support and asking for support. And I'm curious about, because I know the women I work with, and I know for myself, I feel like we get into this, we give. And then after we have children, a lot of times we go into this masculine mode of action, and doing, and not really receiving. And so the energy that we're expending does not match the energy that we're intaking, whether it's in self-care or support or connecting with other people, other women, which connection is huge for me. Connection is the most important thing in life for me personally. But I feel like even women I work with, it's just so hard just to ask their husbands for support or reach out to a girlfriend, and I've been there too, where it's like, oh, well, I don't want to bother anyone. Like, I don't, I know I'm over here about to lose my mind after having a child and not knowing what the hell I'm doing and feeling super anxious, and breastfeeding's not going well, and she's constipated and all these different things with my first child, but not even, and I am a trained psychotherapist, and it didn't occur to me to just say, hey, I'm really losing it here. Can someone help me out a little bit? Because I think that in society, we do value on some level, or we promote the value of, women having it all together and doing it all. I mean, look at the people on Facebook. Everybody's happy.
Yeah, it's such a load of crap.
I know. But it is. It's a load of crap, because some of those people and I know some of those people, and they're not happy,
And it makes me sad. Like, I mean,
it is.
Yeah, it's like you want to share and stuff, but like, I'd rather people come together and like really connect and be real and
vulnerable.
Yeah, and vulnerable. And I think kind of like what you're talking about is to not, because we take things personally, and we take it so personal that then we shame ourselves and like, oh, I suck, I'm a bad mom. Like I remember when Stella was 3 weeks old, our firstborn, I took her to chemo daycare because, well, Mark needed a ride. Like, I wanted to go, and anyway, I had to sit with him and the baby, 3 weeks old, and she puked all over herself. And I had brought a change of clothes, but it was like not a sleeper with feet in it.
Uh-huh.
And I forgot socks. I felt like I took it so personal. I thought it was like a bad mom. Like I felt so embarrassed being in the hospital with, and so like it took some time to realize and gain awareness and like sort of process that. And I found that it's important to process things, and people will do it when they're ready, right? So for me, it took some time, when you have other stuff going on, but it's great if you can do it. Yeah. It's whenever you can, it's important too, because otherwise it gets pushed down. You start blaming there's resentments and fighting, and
or you start drinking more, or you start overeating or binging or whatever, or not eating, not taking care of yourself in different ways to not have to deal with it and feel it and see what's really happening for yourself. And that's one of my big things is, go into the body, notice your feelings, notice the physical sensations. Where are you holding it? Breathe, allow it, because we work so hard to stuff all of these things down that we end up exploding somewhere on somebody at some point in time, whether it's ourselves and like you're talking about the shaming, the mother shame, the mother guilt, and all of those things, or with our partner, taking on the people, or our children, even taking on the people we love the most. And if we would just take the time to just own it and receive it and have compassion for ourselves and be with it, then it just moves. The energy moves through the body so fast when we can do that.
I think. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
When you're talking it's like, I think a lot of us probably just coast along. Yeah. Things are slightly, something feels kind of off, but then we say, no, I can do it. Right. Like, I don't want to bother. I hear this.
Bother
other people. They have their own issues and responsibilities. No one's bothered me in the last few years. And it bugs me because I think I'm the only one dealing with shit. Yeah. Honestly, because no one, they feel like, oh, I feel so bad, I shouldn't complain. But I don't, I have some friends where it's real and I know, but they maybe don't come to me, ironically, as much because they don't want to load me with other issue, or they compare and think that, do you know what I mean? But I'm like, no, everyone has their own experience and there's no judgment or comparing. But it's instinctual. We feel that. We feel well, I don't want to bug the other person, but sometimes it helps to 1, normalize, and 2, feel less alone, and 3, for that friend or the other person to help you, right? It's people love to help and just be a listening ear, but that takes awareness and some stillness on your part to be to listen and to that inner voice, right? When something's kind of off, so people are kind of coasting, and I think when something big happens, then that kind of throws you off, and then you have a choice, and so you don't have any choice but some people still might choose to not reach out for, to suffer in silence or whatever. But
that's true. And you're right. There are so many, and moms are the worst at it, I think, really, or the best, however you want to look at it, at comparing, stories and oh, well, she has it worse than I do, or even thinking, well, my problem isn't, or I'm not important enough, or I'm not valuable enough. And I know they don't think that I'm not valuable enough, but there is an internal voice that is sharing that, and partly from childhood and things that people grew up with and aren't aware of. But if we could all just come together and all just know that we are in this together. And I love what you're saying about the vulnerability piece and just being real. That was one thing that happened with me after I had my second child. That was the first one was challenging for me, but I knew. And so I was able to set myself up for success. Postpartum, the second time I got a postpartum doula. Yeah. And I called my husband when I was really needing extra support. And I met a woman who now we've been friends for several years and we're really close. And she had just had a second child too. And, we were sharing stories. I remember we were at this little gathering with some other moms who had one child, and we were sharing the woes in a very funny way of having 2 kids. And I remember just feeling like, oh my God, finally somebody is talking about this stress, because I really did suffer in silence, because my mom had 3 of us and my dad was in the military, and you know, and she stayed home with me, and she had my 2 older sisters, and I felt like, and my mom's really organized and her house is clean and she's awesome. I mean, she's a great mom, and and she's always really loving and always there for me and all of those things. And I felt like I wasn't, and I never told her this actually, but I felt like I wasn't measuring up, you know?
Yeah, you're like, how can they do it? And I'm struggling.
I know, because she just would roll with the punches, so to speak, you know, whenever things would happen. It's like, well, what can you do? Why worry? You know, whereas I was really in this place of like, oh, my life is just, you know, back when I didn't understand the law of attraction as well and things like that, you know, I would get really stuck in my stuff, but then that shame would come up, and it's just like, well, God, how come everyone else is figuring this out and not me? And so when I met that friend, she was talking about her 2-year-old sticking a straw up her baby's nose, and you know, and then I had some stories too, you know, it's just like, okay, you know, and it wasn't like we weren't sharing war stories and complaining and stuff. It was just, she's someone I can call at any point in time. I have a couple of friends, actually I have a handful of friends like that now, that I can call at any point in time and say things that they know I don't actually mean, but just to like let off a little bit of steam, you know, in a funny way.
And I totally don't. Like, I think the difference is that so it's misinterpreted that we can't, like, you have to allow it out. Mm-hmm. I feel like some of those, you have to be seen and understood and validated in what you're going through. And once it is, then you can move forward, move on. But I think what happens is that it gets repressed, and then it becomes a story, and then like a negative cycle begins. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
right?
I do know what you mean.
And you stay stuck in that story until it gets validated or I feel like, and then you can let it go and move beyond it.
And part of that too is just the self-validation and getting to a point where we can own that, you know what, we don't have to be perfect. Nobody's perfect, because I feel like there are some people that aren't able to get that validation and aren't able to get that, to be seen and be heard. And part of that is partially from their story as a child. Maybe they weren't seen as heard growing up. And so it's their story, as you say, you know, and you're right. We do develop these other stories, and it helps so much. And I do feel like, you know, the sisterhood piece and really connecting in with other women who you can talk about your spiritual life with, and you can talk about your deepest, darkest dreams and secrets and shame and all of those things without being judged and while being lifted up. Because I feel like a lot of times what happens too is there's so much shaming among women at times as well. And so it can feel scary to reach out because you don't know how is this person going to respond. But more times than not, the person responds by, oh my God, I'm so glad you told me that, because, you know, this is what's been going on for me too. And I thought I was the only one. And honestly, that's why I have these conversations. That's why I started this Conversations That Connect piece with other moms, other women, because I want other moms to know, like, you aren't alone. You're not the only one going through whatever situation that you think you're alone in. I mean, there are other people experiencing that as well. And there are some solutions and some techniques and tools that you can.
You can totally thrive. Like, we're doing like really well. Like last year I hated my life and my work. I was burnt out and stressed out, but I took charge. It was really hard. I took a risk. It was bold and courageous, you know, like, I'm like, I have to move on. I had to listen and be like, you know what, I love OT, but this isn't the capacity that I want to work in. I had to really like trust in light, like trust in God, you know, in the universe, of being like, okay, we have enough money, we can make this happen. Like, even though it felt selfish, like, you know, it marks off, you know what I mean? Like, there's just like all this stuff that comes up, but I was like, I have to listen. What good am I if I'm not well to my family, right?
You're not. And that's the thing. It starts with us, and we do get to create our own realities, and we do get to create our own lives. And then when we take charge of our own lives and we are living in this place of feeling aligned and feeling, congruent internally and externally, you know, within and without, then it ripples into our parenthood. It ripples into our marriages. It ripples out into the world. And that's really, that that to me is so important, that if we could all just realize that each of us, we do, I know it sounds trite and people say all the time, we each have a gift to give, and well, but it's true. I mean, we each are very unique in our own ways. And if we can just own that and own who we are and don't apologize for being who we are, and really have the confidence, like you were saying, to just take charge. I mean, just think about how different family life would be for so many people. I mean, I know it changed for me once I got out of negative Nelly mode in my life, you know, and decided, okay, I can sit here and say, well, when so-and-so's in a bad mood, I'm in a bad mood. Or I can take responsibility and say, you know what, that person has their own experience and I can have my own experience. I don't have to receive their experience in that way. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah. It's like not taking it personally, or not taking it on,
not taking it on. Not so
that's a big one. Yeah. It's like right now my business is thriving and then things are good. I feel aligned. I'm going to be doing a doula certification.
I'm so excited for you.
Yeah. Like I love birth and like empowering women, right? Like I had 2 fabulous home births. Like I know every story is different, but I was able to do that even when Mark was going through radiation and everything.
Wow.
So for me, that was really important. It was good that it happened. That was good that at least that it worked out for us. But,
that's amazing.
But like at the same time that Mark is going through, you know, making decisions for treatment and has this growing tumor, like, you know, but I had to like be like, well, you know, we don't have to be depressed and broke, and like, you know, I can still, like, even if you're going through hard times, like you can still manage and you can still even be happy, you know, and create opportunity from it, right? And learn and grow. And
so how did you get to that place though? How do you get to that place when these things are happening where you decide, you know, this can be a learning, we can feel happy? Because I feel like mindset's really important. And I feel like we can shift our mindset and move into the direction that we want, and what like attracts like, what we focus on expands, and all of those things, whether it's something that we desire or something we don't desire, it's going to come to us no matter what thoughts we're putting out. And I also feel like the emotional component is really important too. And I feel like it's important to at least sit with your feelings and to be with your feelings. And one thing I've had to learn how to do, or not had to learn how to do, but one thing I chose to learn how to do is to not stay stuck in that place like I did years ago, you know, in my 20s and, you know, early 30s, like where, you know, something happens to you and you just hang on to it for so long. You stay in that downward spiral, or that place of, oh, this is not good. You know, I've learned to just be with it, allow it, and then I can move into that mindset shifting. But how have you, through all the stuff you've been dealing with, and the person you love going through, you know, cancer and having 2 young children and still following your passion and your dreams, like how did you gain the courage to do that? Or what, like, I know you had the experience with the car rolling over and things like that, but what shifted within you? What step did you take? Like, is there a concrete tool or technique or something you did that moved you in that direction, or it was just a feeling that?
It's a good question. I think it's, I mean, who I am too. Like, I've always seen opportunities in things in life, but and has like having a deep trust and faith. But if I remember back to times like, so when I was struggling with infertility, and that was really hard.
Sorry.
Yeah. I guess it's aligning to what you really, really want. And then as much as possible, like, yeah, it's taking charge and making choices that align to that as much as possible. But then beyond that, I had to surrender and let go too, because then this is yeah, same thing. So like fertility, I had to come to a place of like, yeah, kind of like that mindset shift, abundance, like trust and faith, and then detaching and letting go of the outcome. And it's the same. So I learned that then. I mean, again, it's like an ever evolving thing. You just learn on a deeper level. Right. Yeah. And then so when Mark was diagnosed, like 3 months after, you know, just a little bit after I got pregnant, and even now it's like learning it again, but on a deeper level. It's learning to detach from the outcome. I will be okay no matter what happens. You know, if I end up a widow soon or not, like, just trusting that, and I'm not going to focus, like I have to focus on now.
Right.
It's not to say that my mind doesn't go there sometimes, like if he's away for the weekend and the girls are crying for him, I'm like, oh my gosh, like, but I have to be like, okay, that's not my reality right now.
Right.
So yeah, aligning to what you really want. Yeah, I think everyone, it's just a process. I don't know.
I love what you said about surrendering. No, I love what you said about surrendering and letting go. And I really think that's also ties into the support piece, because on some level, when you're asking for support, you have to let go enough to receive it. Like you have to allow it into your life. If you're, completely blocked from getting any support, or you're tied to these expectations you have, or you've boxed yourself in some way. I mean, you're not surrendering and letting go. You're not open to receiving whatever it is that you're wanting to receive, whether that's trust or having faith in something, or whatever it might be. But I love that. And I think that also is a big piece that a lot of women struggle with, is the surrendering and letting go, because we have to quote unquote hold it together, right? We have kids, and what happens if you surrender and let go? Your whole family goes, that's what I used to think. Oh, my whole family's going to fall apart if I just let go, and it's the opposite, because there is something so sacred and so special about just that act of just allowing and just trusting. And, so thank you for that.
Yeah, I feel like it's all a gift, right? Like if you're just if you're open and willing, and just to allow and to receive and to learn and grow. And for my motivation too is also to be able to model to my girls too, so that they can grow up and feel that life's not perfect, but you can still, you're going to have your ups and downs, and you can't necessarily avoid it just by thinking positive. Like that's my kind of thing. It's like, because I struggled with that. It's like, especially with the positive, like, I get the law of attraction and all that too, but maybe not entirely, but because on some level, it's like, well, why me? What did I attract this? Like, and that's kind of not fair. I feel like because I feel like it's on a bigger level. Like it's just part of my soul's contract. It's a life spiritual lesson. That's okay. If that's what I needed to learn. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
Because I go there with things like, well, did a child attract being sexually abused? So it's like, on one hand, I really do practice the manifestational piece and the abundance piece and the focusing on what I want to create and what I'm creating and being in the present moment as well. But then there is a part of me that's very sensitive and empathetic and really can go into that darker place of like, why is that happening to these people, or why is this going on? And did they call that in? And
right. And it might be, and totally, like it could be like unconscious, of course, but like, cause you can't, I guess my journey was like, you can't beat yourself up, or it's going to happen. You're going to beat yourself up about it, but that's not fair to put that kind of blame and pressure on. Like, that's the biggest lesson for me. It's like, oh, just be more kind. And I really, yeah. But that happens. It's like, cause especially in society and then if you compare, anyway, it all like,
we all have our own, the bottom line is we each have our own path. We each have our own journey. We each have our own perceptions of life and our own belief systems. And you just have to figure out what resonates and what works with you and for you, and go from there, And so one other question I want to ask you, going back to the support pieces, because we talk about how hard it is just to even ask for little things. Like I remember when my son was being born, just asking for people to deliver meals, right? It's something so simple that I know I don't mind doing for people postpartum. But how did you get the courage to ask for this support, with the GoFundMe, or the bigger support pieces? And I also want to know if that's still going on.
Because initially we didn't really ask for much support, right? And And that's where resentment comes in. And it's like, it's because I didn't listen to myself. I was just saying to my husband, and it's because I haven't fully processed it. And like, so I guess being aware of what your triggers are, and then like now taking charge of like releasing it, and like, you know what I mean? Saying like, I did the best I can. Right. Like, you know what I mean? Like in terms of asking for support, if I didn't, and I felt like alone and, you know,
Yes.
But then, so with the GoFundMe, like asking for, cause that's hard, right? Like
Yeah.
I'm a proud person. I've
Yeah,
worked
it is
in
hard.
since I was young. I've had like contributed to like my retirement fund since I was like a teenager, you know, like all that stuff. Right. And we were good with our money, savings, blah, blah, blah. So I don't know. I think just making an ask, and then like when there was like a positive response, maybe I guess then feeling like the good feeling I had to like, it felt empowering, and I wasn't attached to like a certain amount. It was just like, oh my God, this feels so good. Cause I felt so alone, and I wanted to do something for Mark, but I knew that I had a 6-month-old and postpartum depression, a 2.5-year-old. I couldn't go back to work. I mean, I was handling a couple clients, private clients, but right. So like I couldn't go out and work. And there's that pressure of like trying to make thousands of dollars to cover all their expenses, just too unbearable. So I knew that I had to ask. I don't know if that answers your question, but even now, even in terms of like business, like I have a lot of entrepreneur friends. They're coming over on Friday night. We're going to like do the brainstorming. Like I have a friend that's helped me in my office. Like, you know, I need help to organize. Last week I went to another friend's. I haven't focused on my bookkeeping because, you know, other stuff going on, but now I'm ready to look at this, like constantly just, okay, what do I need? Who can help me? Yeah.
That's amazing. I mean, it's amazing that you can go from, what I find amazing is that you can go from this place of just doing it alone, being alone, and then recognizing, okay, no, I need this. And then be able to ask on like a quote unquote smaller scale, but then also be able to ask on the larger scale, and not only to ask, but to really receive it, and to feel the gratitude, to allow yourself to feel the gratitude for what people are doing, and giving them the opportunity to give and to feel gratitude that they're able to give.
Yeah.
To see how that's helping you is very rewarding for them, I'm sure, as well.
Yeah. And I look so 10%.ca is, so my husband was given 10% odds to live 5 years, and he's passed that. Yay. And like totally beaten the odds. We didn't know if he'd make it to see Stella go to school. And this September, it was like an emotional day, but we saw her get on the bus, and what was I going to say? Yeah. So we're going to be selling apparel, but the whole point, it's not about the apparel. He blogs, but it's like, because we want to give back, because money shouldn't stand in the way to help people heal, because we totally believe that you can heal if that's what you're meant to, you know?
Yes.
So yeah, we're going to be setting up like a foundation and giving back to help others, just because we know how important it is to feel like, to not do it alone, and that people feel that you have hope. And yeah, because that's like what you have to hang on to, like, and know and trust that whatever it is you're dealing with, it doesn't, you know, that, it's possible.
How big or small, you can still have faith that things are going to work out the way that maybe they're supposed to, or that you're going to get the learning that you need from that as well. So are you still doing the GoFundMe campaign? Is that going on anymore?
Well, it's kind of there. It's Help Mark Heal at GoFundMe, but like,
is it still there? Yeah,
I think so. Like we haven't, on Hit Mark's friends have put out like a Facebook thing. I think it's Help Mark Heal, but yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, because I want people to know if that's still there, and if they would like to help out and support you in that way. And then I'd also like for you to give your website again, so people can come find you, and to just speak a little bit more about what you do, because I want them to know how you could support them as well.
Right. So you can go to 10%writtenout.ca, and there is a really inspiring video if you want to see, like, you know, our kids, and like they're pretty cute. And like Mark, and it shares a bit of our story there. So that's the one site. And then Lynne Newman, so Lynne, Newman.com. And I work one-on-one with moms, conscious moms who are, struggling with everyday life, who might be dealing with something. Selective eaters is kind of like one of my particular areas, dealing with cancer in the family, just overwhelm, highly sensitive kids, if they're highly sensitive themselves, right? And then simplifying, getting back to the basics, aligning with what's important, valuable. Oh,
we have a visit.
And and so I also, sorry.
No,
and I also offer like 7-week simplicity parenting groups in Toronto. I'm hoping to put that online too, so people can access it.
Oh, great.
And yeah.
That's so great. And I'm so happy that you chose to spend this time with me. I really appreciate you joining us and you sharing your story and sharing how you have been able to maintain and receive support, but also have the courage to step out and do the things that you love to do, even with all of this other stuff going on in your life. And I know that you are going to be a huge inspiration for any mom watching this right now. So thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, don't give up.
Okay. Thank you, Lynne.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.